Hi, I'm Johnny John. Spiritual lessons are the lessons in life that can help us to grow spiritually, to become ever more accepting and more self-knowing, more wise. Today I'm going to introduce you a way of discovering your spiritual lessons, the lessons that are unique to you, through the awareness of the disease that we currently have. Of course, this will be taught from my own experience. I will be giving you clues as to why we're experiencing this state called disease in this lifetime, and why we may have programmed the experience of disease before coming into this lifetime. So I will be giving you clues from my own experience so that you can draw your own conclusion, so that you can use these clues to find your own truth. So let's begin. So I will begin by sharing with you my experience with disease. So when I was young, I would always take some sort of medicine whenever I was sick. This was normal because my dad was a herbal doctor. So I had no choice but to take herbal medicine whenever I was sick. To this day, I don't even know if my dad's medicine helped, but I can remember it was pretty yuck. But then over the years, I began to develop the type of problems and diseases that herbal medicines or Western medicines have no cure. For instance, I had severe allergies when I was young, so I basically lived most of my life, even after university, with my nose completely blocked. Allergies really annoyed me. I didn't like it. Didn't like the sneezing. I didn't like breathing through the mouth all the time. I remembered one time I nearly died from a weird allergic reaction after taking a breakfast bar. My face and throat started swelling up and I couldn't breathe. I had to ring the ambulance myself because my mom was outside doing some shopping. I think I was around 16 at the time, and I used to have a lot of fears back then. I even contemplated just dying because I didn't want the social interactions, if an ambulance does come. Eventually I got saved. The doctors just gave me some injections. The weird thing was, after the allergy, I tried the same breakfast bar again, just out of curiosity. Since the doctor gave me an EpiPen, so I could use it in case something goes wrong. And strangely enough, I didn't get the allergic reaction like I did in the first place. So allergies were always a mysterious disease to me. Also to the doctors. Actually, I remembered there was a period of time when I was taking antihistamines every day. And then I think I took it too much because one time I went to the doctors for more. The doctors told me if I were to take more, I would have to start taking steroids. And I was thinking, steroids? Like the ones that the bodybuilders use? I was really confused. All I knew was that steroids were bad. And what happens after steroids? What am I going to take? So yeah, that scared me. Anyways, long story short, I eventually realized that doctors did not have all the answers to my problems. So I began searching for the clues to my disease. During the time, I found a lot of clues online. Came across an article where someone said they cured themselves of cancer. And there were also people saying that disease came from the mind. So I became very fascinated in the idea that disease came from the mind, and the idea that we can use lifestyle to cure our diseases. But how to go about it wasn't clear, so I decided to look into it through meditation. So through trial and error, I tried to find some sort of connection between my mind and body. The only evidence I had at the time was that every time I sorted out a problem with the mind. When I addressed a suffering state of mind, I would experience my health improving. I began to realize that the more I transformed my wandering thoughts, my stomach problems began to disappear. The more I transformed my anger, the less problems I had with my body overall. So I started becoming aware of the relationship between the health of the body, which I will just call the immune system, and the mind. What helped me to develop more understanding of the relationship between the body and mind was Vipassana. I took a 10-day course in Vipassana, which was a meditation retreat where you meditated around 10 hours a day. And there I learned from experience that any emotions we experience will manifest as a physical sensation on the body as well. I think it was around the third time I went to Vipassana that I experienced quite a special state of mind, where there was absolute stillness within. I could notice very, very subtle things happening in the mind and body. It was like a state where everything became silent, everything stopped. And so I could detect even the slightest movement or thought. At that state, I began to see what kind of ideas would create what kind of feelings or experience. And strangely enough, as soon as I popped a negative idea in my mind, I began to experience negative physical sensations on my body. It was instantaneous. Long story short, as I found a strong connection between the mind and body, I just began on focusing on how to create greater happiness, and I worked towards it. And eventually I stopped having to go to the doctors. Like my allergies and other problems just disappeared. Now, I'm not saying that doctors are bad. Doctors are good people, and they can help you. I mean, if that doctor didn't save me when I had the allergic reaction, I would be dead by now. Doctors are useful. These days, I just go to the doctors to get my blood tested, because being vegetarian and being a person that doesn't feel the need to eat much can get into problems, which I have done in the past. And some diseases are not caused by the mind, much like an injury can happen when someone hits you with a baseball bat. So don't go off thinking that you're invincible and immune to all diseases by simply radiating spirituality. But in saying this, I actually went for years without getting any flus. During that period, I was in my peak of ultra spirituality. During those years, I had the belief that I won't get sick, and I was radiating positivity. Maybe that can help. I guess what I want you to take away is to approach your diseases in a holistic way, which is to also take responsibility of looking after your mind. Because there's a deep relationship with the mind and body, and the doctor can never take care of your mind. Okay, so let's get back to the main point. How can we use disease to uncover our spiritual lessons? My personal belief, from the clues I have discovered through studying the mind, is that when we come into this lifetime, we have programmed certain diseases to manifest on our body, to remind ourselves of the spiritual lessons we have to go through. The reason for this is because the illusions here can be so thick that we can forget the spiritual lessons that we have set out to do. Thus, diseases are an effective way, and that if we keep failing to see the spiritual lessons we need to do in this lifetime, they can quickly bring our awareness to the fact that we're doing something wrong. But to discover our spiritual lessons through the diseases will be somewhat difficult, because we would have programmed these diseases to manifest only if we have ignored our spiritual lessons long enough. If we program these diseases to manifest quickly, then we would experience a lot of sickness every day. That's why of the delay. What I mean is, when the disease does manifest, it will be difficult to know what it is about, because after all, the spiritual lessons involved in that disease will always be something about a spiritual lesson that we have long failed to see. To give you an example, I had this ongoing case of verruca growing under my foot. It was like a bump that wouldn't go away for years, and it was very painful every time I walked. I tried burning it, freezing it, using acid, even went to surgery, but it just kept coming back, even after surgery. It was only when I realized that I must have to do something with guilt, since it was something I was heavily experiencing during that time for like 7 years. Anyways, the verruca just fell away by itself after I started working on it. The time that took me to discover this spiritual lesson was like 4 years. So I guess a tip for you is to examine what kind of suffering, emotions, thoughts, sensations that you're experiencing every day to find the clues to the mental aspects of the disease that you're currently experiencing. And like this, every time I miss seeing a lesson, I would experience disease on the body. Especially if I get a disease that's unexplainable, I knew there was a lesson to be found. So then I would question what suffering states of mind am I carrying intensely during that time. And as I work through them, the disease just disappears. By the way, when I say diseases, I mean to include physical pain as well, as pain will always be an indicator that something is wrong. But yeah, ever since I began to work on self-acceptance every day, I stopped getting these unexplainable diseases. So if you just make it your goal to be happier than the day before, to work on your suffering states of the mind, your health will, no doubt, improve every day. So through disease, we can discover our spiritual lessons. Realize that on our soul journey, we will no doubt fail to see the spiritual lessons we have brought into this lifetime. This is because one would never doubt their current beliefs until something bad happens. For instance, a disease. So yeah, if you do experience weird diseases that no one seems to be experiencing at that moment, a disease that is unique to you, like a finger problem, persistent stomachache that seems to not come from a diet, or aches and pains around certain areas on the body, or something that's untreatable. It's an opportunity for you to become aware of the spiritual lessons that your body is trying to communicate to you. You can always work your way outwards, inwards, addressing your diet, your health first to eliminate the possible causes, and if that still doesn't work, then what is left to address will be the mind. So through the body, many truths about oneself can be discovered, for the body never lies. If the body is hungry, it needs food. If it's thirsty, it needs water. If there is a pain or disease, there's something that needs to be looked into, and perhaps these are your spiritual lessons. I hope that this video has helped you to understand the way of discovering your spiritual lessons through disease, helping you to understand what the disease may be, what your body is trying to communicate to you.